Recording now. Hello, one and all. Jasper here, and I'm joined again by DJ Fella, and we're going to be jumping in and talking about House of the Dragon Episode 3. DJ Fella, would you like to say hello?
Hello, DJ Fella here. I'm glad to be joining you again for the discussion on Episode 3.
Definitely looking forward to this one. I feel like each one of our episodes gets better and better in quality as we figure this shit out. Now, as for the episode itself, House of the Dragon, when I first watched it, I was kind of disappointed due to the ending of said episode, feeling a bit contrived and whatnot. We'll go into more detail on that, but sitting on it a bit, as well as doing a couple of rewatches, I think I've come to the conclusion that it is better than I originally felt. It just kind of gives you an idea just how powerful the ending can be, because it kind of warps your thoughts on the episode as a whole. But overall, a lot of the scenes before it I thought were very well done. Couple of nitpicks here and there, but overall, I would almost say this might be the best episode so far.
Wow, that's a bold statement there. Because I feel the exact opposite. I felt the episode got worse the more I watched it and the more I thought about it. It's definitely got the most contrivances so far, I think. From any of the other episodes, you have more plot armor, for sure. And then, sorry, I can't speak. I think that by the end of the episode, both the princess and Damon should be dead, so that would really clean up the concession issue.
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that account.
And I figured out my issue with the last episode, and to a lesser extent this one. They are holding shots too long. They're holding single scenes. Like, it feels like they're really padding out scenes, which, less so in this episode, but certainly in the last episode, is what led me to think it was so boring.
Okay.
Have you noticed anything like that?
I think I have. Like, maybe not, like, I think now that you've mentioned it, the gears are clicking in my head. But until now, like, I don't think there was quite much of an issue, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, there are times, I noticed this when just, like, skipping around the episode on rewatches, there's, like, 30-second gaps where it's just holding a single shot that's, like, panning or something.
Yeah, there was one particular scene, I think, and we can kind of go more into it when these scenes crop up, but I do think there was some important aspects to those scenes, and there was a justification for these more longer panning scenes.
On occasion, yeah, I agree. And in this episode, for sure, I felt like it wasn't as bad. But in the last episode, I feel like they lingered a lot on stuff they shouldn't have.
Okay, well, we're not talking about the last episode, we're talking about the third episode, Second of His Name. So, are you ready to kind of go in scene by scene?
I am prepared.
Okay, so obviously we start off with the Valerian fleet being burnt up, loot sacked, and as well as a guy getting tortured by the crab feeder. And so I think it's safe to say that this is, well, it's a bit of a couple of things. It's either kind of like the very beginning of this kind of mini war, or it's where it takes place, like, in the continuity of this episode.
I think it's where it takes place in the continuity of this episode. It seems like they've been fighting for a little bit, because, like, the Pirate King doesn't even seem surprised when the dragon shows up. He just scuttles off into his little cave.
Yeah, in which case it seems a little bit odd that the pirates were able to kind of achieve this victory at all in getting the ships, and that these are kind of like merchant ships with loot, it seems, rather than war galleys.
Yeah, you'd think that, all the warships and dragons would keep them hiding in their caves, but apparently not.
And then, obviously, you got the guy getting tortured, crabs putting on him and whatnot. A part of me wonders, like, how vicious crabs are. A part of me feels like if you're shaking that much and, like, kind of smacking them with your chin, they'll, like, kind of leave you alone. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe vampires are very precocious bastards.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a pet hermit crab growing up, and those things would pinch the shit out of you. So I could see crabs eating people alive.
Alrighty. But with that, we have Damon showing up, and this whole part felt too hopeful for me, and I was positive that he was going to torch that guy pinned to the wood. I was half...
But we get something even more brutal.
Yeah.
Damon decides to step on a fella in his Air Force One. You know what I'm saying?
Just crushes that poor bastard.
Yeah.
Overall, though, I'm enjoying the scene. You know, it's not, I wouldn't like it's action packed to a certain extent, but it's nice to see the dragon in action, breathing his fire. It kind of sets up how these guys run into the caves, and that's kind of their defensive point. It kind of minimizes the effectiveness of the fire and whatnot. Though a part of me scientifically questions it, though I'm willing to admit I might not know what I'm talking about, but couldn't Damon, like, just have his dragon press its mouth against the entrance of the cave and breathe fire and fill up, like, most of it with flame?
Well, I was thinking he could certainly smoke them out. Like, that's one of the ways you can get people out of hiding in a cave like that. So I don't know if these are really extensive cave systems that maybe they have exits that go out to the surface in a variety of places, so the smoke won't necessarily get deep enough to smoke them out. But yeah, I would think that he could certainly smoke them out.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think of smoking out. I was just thinking of literal fire. But yeah, smoking out, of course, could probably do some good.
And then they start shooting fire arrows at the dragon.
Yeah. Obviously, the directors are doing fire arrows because it's easier to see the fire arrows as well. Like, if they did regular arrows, you probably couldn't see them as well. Fire arrows just look cooler. But yeah, fire arrows against a dragon and a Targaryen.
So
I mean, it's like if you tied an ice cube to your arrow and tried to kill a White Walker with that. I don't think it's going to do much.
Yeah, I was baffled when they started letting loose the fire arrows.
Mm-hmm. Damon actually takes a hit, though. Probably would have. It would have been more serious if it wasn't a fire arrow, but
right, if it had been a normal arrow that didn't have a bunch of shit on the head of it,
yeah, it might have done a whole lot more damage. And he flies away in retreat. So, yeah. So overall, I think that was an okay scene. That's kind of connected to like the whole kind of battle and war in the Stepstones that I'm not a big fan of. But then we get to the feast. And
is that a two-headed pig, or is that just two pig heads?
I assumed that it was just two pig heads.
I didn't think about it at all until just now looking at it, but I would assume it's two pig heads. I don't know. This isn't Fallout, you know?
Well, even Fallout didn't have two-headed pigs. That was two-headed cows, Brahmins, right?
Yeah, but who knows? There could be two-headed pigs out there.
Okay, so 1 second. I'm going to have to refresh, it seems, because it's buffering on the two-headed pigs. There we go. Yeah, so it looks like to me that it's two separate pig heads, because it does look like it's like wrapped up together.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right. So everyone here is celebrating Prince Aegon's second name day, give or take. So this pretty much means that it's been 3 years since the previous episode, give or take.
Right. And so I'm not I guess there's not really a better time for me to bring this up than now. It has now been 3.5 years since the Aegon's wound on his back was first presented. They said they were going to cauterize it. I guess at this point we just assume cauterizing it worked.
I mean, to a certain point, probably. I mean, I'm not incredibly familiar with with all the diseases and whatnot of Game of Thrones. Like, you know, I know a little bit about grayscale, and we can get a bit more into that later, because I feel like it's somewhat important to talk about that when we get to the final scene. But with that squared away, it's not too crazy that the king's still kicking around despite, you know, all these little infections he's getting.
I guess. I didn't pay that close attention. Did you notice if he still has his finger in the episode?
No, they actually do remove his fingers.
Okay.
Alrighty. But with that, we get introduced to Otto's brother, the actual Lord of Old Town, and they are both seem to be quite keen on Aegon, of course, becoming the new heir. So it's kind of setting up that whole dichotomy and whatnot.
Yeah, and Otto seems to understand that Viserys is an idiot, so he's not going to name Aegon the new heir.
Yeah, and his brother is just like, no problem. You'll be able to convince him.
Yeah, you got to talk him into it.
Right. And then we have Thailand Lannister showing up and kind of talking to the king about, hey, shit's going down in the Stepstones.
Is that Thailand Lannister? I didn't realize he was like an important person. I thought he was just like a messenger.
No. So that is Thailand Lannister. He is actually the twin brother to Jason Lannister, the Lord Paramount of the Western Lands, played by the same actor as well. So, I mean,
and has Thailand been sitting at the council this whole time?
No,
and I just haven't paid attention. No, he has not.
No,
so is he a new addition?
Yes, he'd be a new addition. He was probably added in between the time skip.
Okay.
And of course, it makes sense to have like Tywin Lannister on your small council. You know, brother to one of the most influential men in the realm and whatnot.
Yeah. And so the king tells him to fucking wait 3 damn days.
He's celebrating his son's birthday. He wants to go out hunting and whatnot.
Right.
Tywin is a precocious scamp as he continues to go over and kind of pester him. We got Strong talking about how they're ready to go camping and whatnot, but Tywin continues to tell him about how shit the Stepstones are going for Daemon and Corlys, and that the crown should probably interfere and assist. And Otto Hightower is like, nah, they started this war themselves, let them finish this war.
Which, I have to say, on this one, I very much agree with Otto. Like, if they were going to get involved in this war, then that ship has sailed. Like, they have to let Coral and Daemon either handle it or die trying. Because if they get involved 3 years later, they look like a bunch of fucking retards.
Not to mention, at this point for Viserys, it probably... Did you hear that?
I did.
Fuck. Anyways, at this point for Viserys, it makes sense for him to let House Valerion and Daemon, more so House Valerion, kind of not waste per se, but use up their resources in this situation, because they're not exactly an ally of his.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of let them, battle it out and learn their lesson a little bit. Maybe when they come back, you can, give them a little slap. Tell them, don't go against me in the future. That's how it's going to end up. Yeah.
This is actually a change that that is from the books that I'm okay with, especially because it has some story payoff. But in the books, as far as we know, once Corlys and Daemon go to war with the Stepstones, Viserys funds them. Like, he's like, yeah, sure, here's some money. It really does turn into a Cold War, America and Russia, Westeros versus the Triarchy, and they're just funding people in the Stepstones.
Oh, okay. Yes, because in this version, it seems like he is not supporting them at all.
Yeah, and this is a change that I can get behind. Now, we also, and this is might be a little bit of a nitpick, but we also have him talking to Criston Cole. And he asks, where's his daughter? Criston says, I don't know. Motherfucker, you're her bodyguard.
Yeah, I had the same nitpick.
Like, if she sent you away, then tell the king that at the very least. Don't just go like, I don't know. Don't be Jon Snow in this situation.
Yeah. Not the smartest response from Cole there.
Which is, later on, he has a couple of better responses. So far he's like 50-50, perhaps you'll remember when I knocked you on your ass. That was a good one.
Right. He's, it seems like he's at the whims of the writers for how smart he is.
To be fair, you can't really be much of a smartass to the king, but yeah, definitely at least tell him she sent you away. So,
yeah. We
do eventually get to see Rhaena, and she's at the Godswood by a weirwood tree, as the bard is playing the same song over and over and over for her.
Yeah, she set her iPod to repeat.
Not a whole lot. I actually tried to look up to see if I could find anything on the song in particular. Couldn't find like anything related to House of, or Game of Thrones. From what I understand, there's a couple of like actual songs called "The Dragon's Eye," but nothing in the setting, sadly. So I was sad about that. Thought I'd find another Hands of Gold or a Reigns of Castamere.
Yeah, and this is where they start Reyna's new characterization for the episode. She is now a little baby.
And
She's going to proceed to act like a little baby and whine and bitch and moan for the rest of the episode. Until she gets one moment of character development.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, I think that her anger is somewhat justified.
I agree. I understand why she's angry, but we had a 3-year time skip, and I feel like her character regressed rather than developed. I don't know. I would have expected her to mature in some way over the 3 years that we or I guess, yeah, it was 3 years. Over the 3 years that we missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely some scenes in particular where she's not exactly the most competent when it comes to politics as well. It's about on the same par as when she named Kristen Cole into the Kingsguard. Like, yeah. I hope like you watch the after credit thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do they praise her for her politicking in this episode?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think they mentioned anything about it.
Okay.
They do talk about her character development in a way that I strongly disagree with.
Okay.
But we can talk about that when we get to the boar.
Oh my god. Okay. So anyways, we get this kind of little back and forth between the princess and the queen, where the princess says, "I command you to say," queen says, "I command you to leave," and the bard's like, "Fuck me, guess I'll listen to the queen, because I got no choice. Also, bitch, ask for more songs."
Yeah. And Alicent's being very polite. She's obviously trying to maintain some semblance of her friendship with Reyna, which, again, I don't know. I feel like their relationship, I feel like there should have been more to it after 3 years. Like, it feels like this is a conversation that they could have had right after the king said he was going to marry Alicent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I would think after 3 years, they would, I don't know, have more come to terms with their new relationship as stepmother and daughter. And even if they don't like it still, I wouldn't expect exchanges like this, where they're just Alicent's being polite and the princess is just being petty.
Yeah, but I would say the reason why it's a bit more vitriol is because of like the political implications of the situation. Like, it would be bad enough, I would imagine, if your best friend married your dad. It would be a very awkward situation. But if you throw in on top that your friend is also somewhat currently giving birth to people who are threatening your position, like, I think the hostility makes sense even after so long because of the larger ramification implications.
No, I'm not saying that the princess should be any less hostile. I'm saying, if anything, Alicent should have given up by now. Like, we're talking 3 years of her being like passively polite, and she's still doing it. I don't know. Maybe she's got a freaking iron will, but I would think she would at least just be curt with her at this point.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she's pretty much comes to tell the princess that the king has commanded her to come on the hunt. And I kind of feel bad for Viserys, especially with this coach scene, because he just feels like a dad who like wants to go and celebrate his son's birthday and like be with the family and whatnot.
Yeah, Viserys. I will say, Viserys is by far my favorite character in this episode, and the actor does a fantastic job with him throughout.
Yeah.
Not that he's done a bad job in the past episodes, but I feel like in this episode he kills it.
Oh yeah, incredibly. Like I've said this in our previous episodes, but I went into this not expecting much from Viserys as a character. I thought he would just kind of be like a one-stop kind of situation, a bumbling idiot. And he's not intelligent. He's not super smart by any means. And you keep calling him like a kind of an idiot and a bad king, but he feels real. He feels like a genuine character rather than just some stepping stone, and I'm really getting attached to him, which
he's definitely a genuinely good guy. That just makes for a terrible king in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to his obvious inevitable death.
Yeah, I'll miss him for sure.
Mm-hmm. So we get a little bit of a back and forth in the carriage ride. Viserys is like, happy, trying to have a good time, and then they kind of have a back and forth with Rhaenyra, where she's, again, being a bit of a bitch.
Right? Still whining. Wah.
But Viserys, I mean, he kind of holds his ground here in this situation. Like, if you actually did your duties, I wouldn't have to constantly remind you about them.
Yeah, it does seem like Viserys is kind of getting fed up with her bitchiness, which I would expect Alicent to also be getting fed up with her bitchiness. I think everyone should be fed up with her. She's being a bitch.
I mean, to be fair, no, because king and queen. Because Viserys is obviously somewhat fed up with it, but Alicent is the queen? I don't know. It doesn't strike me as too crazy. Maybe it was a much slower start, and maybe some progress has been made in the bitchiness, but yeah, a lot of that is just me kind of justifying and adding scenes that we have not come across.
Mm-hmm. Which, this is going to be the struggle the show faces having to do large time skips, is developing the characters during large time skips is hard, because you don't want to end up with like a Professor Hulk situation, where the most important arc the character has ever gone through is done during a time skip. So you want to try and kind of maintain some familiarity for the audience. But again, 3 years is a long time. The characters can't be the same exact people.
Yeah.
So it's a tough challenge that they've given themselves with just the nature of the show.
I agree. I would say, though, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit too generous on this account, but I feel like when I look at my own life to a certain extent, I look at myself now than I do like 3 years ago. Obviously, there's changes and differences, but I don't think it's so great that if you were to take me from 3 years ago and me now, our personalities would be massively different in one way or another.
Yeah, definitely you wouldn't expect a complete character flip or anything. But I think everyone can look back on themselves 3 years ago and be like, oh, I've grown and developed since then.
Yeah, and I think so. Definitely in some ways for me personally, in small matters here and there. Won't go into too much detail because this ain't about me, about House of the Dragon. But so yeah, I do enjoy the carriage scene. It's nice to see the kind of verbal back and forth, as well as the awkward stares from the maids or the lady at hands or whatever their term is. Just like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, definitely a little uncomfortable for them.
Is there anything else in particular that you wanted to go over, or shall we jump to the next part?
I think I'm good on the carriage scene. We're now at, the big festival for Aegon's birthday hunt.
Yeah, I feel like this is HBO's very expensive apology to George R.R. Martin.
For what?
Well, you see, remember... excuse me. Remember when Robert went out hunting?
Yes.
Do you know how many people were there?
Not a clue.
4 people. It was
4 people?
It was Robert, Barristan, Lancel, and Renly trudging through the woods on foot with a spear.
And that's just the show? In the books, I assume it was different.
Yeah, in the books it's different. In the show, but that's the thing. George R. R. Martin has whenever like people ask him like, is there a particular scene in the series that you're not a fan of? That's the go-to one he picks. And the reasoning he picks it is obvious because the limitations back then were budgetary. They couldn't afford all the horses, they couldn't afford all the backgrounds as much as they could until later parts and whatnot. So that's the reason why he kind of picks that one apart, because he's not stepping on anyone's toes really for having issues with that scene. And so now when we get an entire episode of a large group going off and hunting and there's tons of lords and paramounts and knights and nobility and dogs and hounds and all sorts of stuff. So it's just a massive upgrade and more in line to George's vision of the situation.
I will say, if Rob's hunt was anything like this one, you'd be hard-pressed to get hurt during it.
Well, yeah, but if anyone would, it would be Robert.
Which, admittedly, if the friggin' boars are anything like this episode, those things are friggin' vicious. I mean, not really vicious. They just kind of sniff ya, but they have potential to be vicious.
Right? I mean, Robert just drew the short straw for the one that killed him. But
yeah, he just got an actually mean one.
We can get into that later. So
right,
we have a lot of kind of the setting shots, not a whole lot to go into, except for Otto's brother. Once the king is and everyone's coming out, he's all like, it's Aegon, second of his name! Woo, go Aegon!
Yeah. Which, it seems that's kind of the tone of this big hunt, is everyone's trying to push Aegon as the heir as much as possible.
Including some characters where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we'll get into that later. We have Rhaenyra kind of walking into the tent where people seem to be, hanging out, drinking, eating, snacking, and what have you. Is this where she goes and there's like all the ladies gossiping and chatting?
Yeah, this is the old ladies gossiping scene.
Yeah, I just realized there's not a lot of dialogue until we get to that. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people walking around.
What I like,
and then continue.
What I like about this first little line, they talk about a lady from the Stormlands.
Lady Johanna.
Yes, Lady Joanna. She's actually mentioned in the books because it's not really a precursor to war, but it kind of gives more justification. So, I'm still a bit confused about the whole situation with the Stepstones in regards to the crab feeder and whatnot. Like, are they pirates being funded by the Triarchy, or are they Triarchy soldiers? It's a little confusing. Is this Cold War or not? But Joanna in the books was on a merchant ship, and because her ship, one way or another, couldn't afford the toll, or maybe it's because the people who took the ship were just assholes from the Triarchy, they actually abduct her, and they try to ransom her, but her uncle refuses to pay, because he's a real cheap bastard. So she gets sold into slavery, but she actually, works her way up to be one of the most influential women in the Triarchy, and it's rumored that she has some part in their, inevitable fall years and years later. So it's kind of cool to have her mentioned like this.
Yeah, that's a fun little... I mean, I wouldn't even call it an Easter egg. I guess it's just foreshadowing at that point.
It depends on how important they plan on making the Triarchy. Obviously, Triarchy seems somewhat important, and it has its role to play in the dance, but it's very minor. And I don't even know if the Triarchy crumbles during this show. I think it's after the dance where shit hits the fan for them.
Oh. So, more Easter eggy,
yeah.
I guess, then.
Definitely a bit more Easter eggy, but who knows? It's entirely possible they might push the Triarchy up, but I feel like that's going to be inflating an already series that's going to be a bit on the... not bloated per se, but it has to go through a lot. So sold into as a pillow house in the Free Cities. We get to see one of Lord Strong's kids, the Clubfoot, walking in
Which
on.
he's Lord Strong's oldest son, right?
Um,
No, youngest son. Wait, I'm confused. So he's Lord. Who's Lord Strong?
you remember the guy who said, that Viserys should marry Corlys' daughter?
Yeah, Lionel.
Yeah. So he's the father. And I'm checking now. Harwin Strong. No. So his eldest was the knight that was mentioned. Harwin Strong, Breakbone, the strongest knight in the Seven Kingdoms. That's his eldest.
Right.
This this is Larry Strong or something along those lines. He actually becomes the Master of Whispers later in the series. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler for you.
Wait, so is Lionel Lord Lionel is that his first name?
Yeah, Lyonel.
So he's Lionel Strong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like calling him Lord first name. Wouldn't you call him Lord Strong?
I mean, even in the books, I think they kind of go back and forth on it. Like, you have for example, Jaime Lannister. You have people call him Lord Jaime, and I think that's just to make it just a bit more personal, especially in situations where there are other Lannisters. So you might want to be specific in who you're addressing. But yeah,
Fair enough.
there aren't but in that case, there aren't a massive amount of Strongs in these situations. But Lord Lionel, Lord Strong, either one probably works.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if in the scene later on where the king talks about the knight, if he was sarcastically referring to this guy, but it says he's the youngest, so I've now had that confusion cleared up. I'm good to go.
Yeah. So he kind of steps in and listens to all the gossip and whatnot, and they seem to be rather critical of the situation, as well as bringing the princess in to talk about it.
Right, which she basically says, I ain't got shit to say.
And everyone's out like, it's your uncle who started this shit.
Right, like you're the heir to the throne. Seems like you should have an opinion on this.
Mm-hmm. And interesting point is you have Alicent actually kind of defending Rhaenyra in this whole situation. It's like, and I don't know if I talked about this with you, but in the books there was never this friendship between the two.
Between Alicent and Rhaena?
Yeah, because like I said, Rhaenyra is aged up, so she's about a good 10 years younger than Alicent. And have you ever been good friends with someone who is 10 years younger than you?
No, I have not.
Mm-hmm. So they never had that friendship. It was always very much a strong rivalry, especially when Alicent married Viserys. So this is a dynamic they changed up, and it's a dynamic that I'm not against. It definitely can make Alicent appear more as a sympathetic and interesting character than her book counterpart, which was kind of a bitch.
Yeah. Again, I would expect Alicent to be a little bit more bitter towards Rhaenyra after 3 years of Rhaenyra basically being malicious towards her.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in the show, she's just that good a friend. She'll never give up on the princess.
Mm-hmm. All right, but with that, the hens continue to cluck and chatter as they say, like, Viserys should actually go to war because we're already at war. Might as well make it official.
Mm-hmm. Which I'd like to point out, this one old lady's holding a pug.
Mm-hmm.
I thought when I first saw that, there's no way they had pugs back then. But then I googled it. Pugs were first bred in I think it was 450 BC. Which I thought that was pretty crazy. That people were breeding completely useless dogs in 450 BC.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, pugs originate from China, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, I don't know about dog genetics in Westeros, but if we're to assume, regional inspirations, then that would mean pugs originate from Yi Ti, And it's impressive to get a pug from there all the way over to bumfuck Westeros.
Well, but then you gotta think Westeros is more similar to like
Europe.
medieval. So you're talking 1,000 years after the original breeding of a pug, assuming. I mean, I guess it's all fucking fantasy, so we can't assume pugs were bred in any sort of similar way to how it happened in our world.
Yeah, and that's just like one of those things that you're never going to actually be able to get accurate, because like modern day horses are bigger and stronger than horses back in these times.
Uh-huh.
But no, this is just me be kind of nitpicky, just like, that shouldn't be a pug. It should probably be a greyhound.
Well, a greyhound and a pug serve different purposes.
I don't. Fuck off.
I don't know what the Western version of a lapdog would be in medieval times.
What's that? What's that little Pomeranian? Pomeranian. That's it.
Are they Western?
Fuck if I know, but it's the first dog that came to mind.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a Shih Tzu? Those are German, right? Shih Tzus?
Possibly. But anyways, we're getting off topic. So there's another little verbiage back and forth where you have Mrs. Redwine being critical of the king, to which Rhaenyra says, "And what have you done to serve the realm? Eat cake?" And then you just have the Larry.
Pug.
Well, yeah, you have the pug eat the cake, but you also have Larry Strong just like eating his own cake, like Jesus, not touching that shit.
Yeah, again, the princess just no politicking. She has not a single political bone in her entire body.
Casually insulting very powerful, influential women.
Yeah.
Right, but then she gets a very, very pleasant introduction to Jason Lannister, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was Jason.
Yeah, James or Jason. It starts with a J, I know that. Yeah, Jason Lannister. So, he's putting on the moves. We've never met. Snaps his fingers to get some delicious wine over. And you know exactly what he's going for right when he says his name.
Yeah. Which one question I have is, I guess the Lannisters have always been pretty wealthy.
Yes.
Because we discussed that Coral's family, the Valerians, are basically the Lannister equivalent of the time, being the most wealthy house in Westeros. So does that make Lannisters like a close second or something?
Probably a close second. And and the whole thing with the House of Valerian wealth is I never entirely bought it. Because House Valerian is but like when it comes to like the land they control, House Valerian is very small. It's like 2 islands, I believe. 2 rather small islands. So a lot of their wealth comes from trade, and we get this because it was Corlys who actually made House Valerian the wealthiest in the world. And it was because he sailed further than anyone else, all the way to Yee and doing all these like big trades and whatnot. I question, especially given the size of House Valerian, if that would be enough for them to become the wealthiest in the region. But it's a fact of the matter that in both the books and the show, they are the richest. But the Lannisters are not someone you can ignore when it comes to wealth. They still have their gold mines. They were the richest before the Valerians, and they'll be richer after the Valerians. So they are rolling in the dough, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot to delve into this kind of back and forth. Obviously, Jason Lannister wants to organize a betrothal between the two. Makes sense. She's a very powerful and influential woman. He's a bit of a dumbass later on, not in this particular scene, but when he's talking about Viserys.
Yeah, he puts his foot in his mouth pretty hard a little later on.
But it's very clear that Rhaenyra is not interested in the golden dick of Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can probably kind of jump away, because eventually she just leaves, and then he stands there awkwardly drinking his wine before he pours it out. And she confronts her father, Viserys, apparently upset that he would even consider marrying her to Jason Lannister. And this, for me, was where she was the most unlikable.
Yeah, this was definitely pretty unlikable. But on the other side of the coin, as much as I hate her in this scene,
I
I love
love Viserys in this scene. Just like, first he comes off like, he's proud and pretentious and arrogant. He's like, oh, I thought you two had that in common.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this scene, the kind of like back and forth of their arguments. You can kind of understand both kind of situations and opinions on the matter, but given the time period, I obviously side with Viserys a bit more in this.
Especially since, even though he didn't marry necessarily the most advantageous spouse, he did marry again despite not wanting to marry again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, I see that there's some hypocrisy in him saying that she needs to marry for duty, but he did mostly marry for duty, even if he did choose the lesser option.
Yeah. And it's not like Alicent was just some commoner. She is a high tower, and the high towers are pretty powerful. Like, they're not as rich as the Valerians, nor do they have dragon riders, but they're wealthy in their own right as well. Like, they're probably like, if you ignore all the Lord Paramounts, like the Starks, maybe even richer than the Starks, but high towers are pretty fucking wealthy as well.
Mm-hmm.
They also probably have a bigger military. But yeah, still, all in all, the Valerians would have been the more appropriate match.
Yeah.
But
so then,
speaking of the high towers, yeah, go ahead.
Otto interrupts their shouting match, kind of subtly reminding them, I think, that this is not the place to be arguing. You're in front of, like, everybody.
Yep, and they kind of take it. Viserys says, we're done with this shit. And then Otto brings up the White Hart, which is, a pale stag. And it seems to be considered like the king, or at least, and it seems to, this brings up a couple times, it used to be kind of considered the king of the forest, but then the Targaryens came, so now less so. I'd imagine, because I believe the Kingswood is a part of the Stormlands, or was originally, back when there were 7 kingdoms, and the Durrandons ruled those lands, and their sigil's a stag. So it would make sense that for in these woods, the white stag would be kind of a symbol of regality and kingship.
Yeah, and the hunter says straight up that the White Hart used to be the symbol of royalty.
Mm-hmm.
So not even necessarily like King of the Woods, but just the symbol of royalty in general.
Yeah. I'm kind of just putting like extra justification on it, considering I believe that these are in the Stormlands, so it makes more sense. Like, if this was in the Riverlands, it would make less sense, or if it was in the Western Lands. But but the Kingswood, I believe, is the Stormlands, so bonus points for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So after that whole thing, Rhaenyra gets pissy, gets on her horse, rides off, and Criston Cole does his job this fucking time and follows after her.
Yeah, tries to keep track of the woman he's supposed to guard. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm. It's not even going to be doing that all that impressively. But anyways, riding along, yada yada yada. Not a whole lot, so we can kind of, I think, skip most of it. And then they end up at a river. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know, the maneuver he does to stop her, where he goes up and grabs her reins, seems crazy dangerous.
Maybe. I mean, that I would have to defer to more horse riding experts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just because even riding his horse up right next to her like that seems risky. Because if one of them turns, then they're gonna just crash into each other. And then reaching out and grabbing her reins, both the horses start bucking. I don't know. Seems like that would be a good way for the princess to get fucking tossed.
Now that you mention that, not particular, I'm not going to question much about how dangerous it is or whatnot, but doesn't he stop her before she goes charging into a river?
Yeah, she was kind of charging straight into that river or lake or whatever.
So one could take this as two things. One, that's Kristen Cole, like, taking a risky maneuver in order to stop her from doing something stupid, because if she kept going, the horse might get stuck kind of in the mud and it would have fallen. So that could have been a situation, as well if the horse falls on her and she's in the water, pinned down. So maybe that's the lesser of two evils. Also, portrays her as a dumbass.
Yeah.
Well, but who knows? Maybe horses can swim, so yeah. But anyways.
I mean, horses can swim.
But you don't want to go full gallop into a river.
Yeah, full gallop into a river.
So she starts chatting with Kristen Cole, like, I can't believe he's trying to wed me to Jason Lannister. She's complaining. And Kristen Cole's just like, want me to kill him?
Yeah. Again, I love Cole. Princess is freaking obnoxious in the scene, like, wah, I have to do my duty. Wah, I don't care. You're so annoying.
All right, so
but yeah, do you want me to kill him is a baseline.
I mean, I don't know. If he can't even handle a boar, can he handle Jason Lannister?
I don't know.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, boars are dangerous. But so they go on a little bit of a walk. I'm a little confused that they're walking with the horses. Like, they weren't riding the horses that long. I don't think they're... Well, maybe they want to give their asses a break.
Yeah, I guess if you're just strolling to the woods, then there's no need to be on the horse.
Yeah, and so Rhaenyra is having this pinnacle white bitch privilege moment.
Yeah.
Where it's just like...
being a princess is so hard.
You
commoners don't know what it's like.
Yeah, she's like, tells Kristen Cole, like, oh, you're so lucky that you could marry anyone you want. And Kristen just straight up tells her, do you know how many people wish they were in your position right now? It's like, oh, they don't know about the difficulties of my position and whatnot. And, like, I can understand, like, the issues with both situations, but don't, like, obviously a commoner doesn't have to worry as much about their succession or any of that kind of bullshit or political nonsense.
But they do have to worry about, like, having food to eat.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I would consider maybe slightly more important.
They have to worry, like, they don't have access to the same kind of medicine because they don't got maesters living, like, across the yard from them. They don't got bodyguards. Like, okay, yeah, it's a give and take, but you are taking a lot more, you are giving a lot more than they are. Or either way, she's got it easier. Kristen, of course, fires back, and she also says, I don't have any power and influence. And I like his response to that as well, that it's thanks to her, his entire life has changed. He was a part of a small, minor nobility where they didn't matter too much. Just above commoners to a certain point. And she named him to the Kingsguard, one of the most sought-after positions by thousands and thousands of people, and it changed his life forever for the better. So, I like this. It's kind of like, and I want to make it clear, I'm not, like, shitting on Rhaenyra in this because I hate her, because I don't. I don't hate her, like, as a character or anything, but she does annoy me a lot, like, but I understand this thing she's going with. She's not quite to that moment where I just want her out the show or anything along those lines.
See, and I would say my irritation with Rhaenyra is mostly that it feels like her character has just done a 180 in between episodes. Like, if she was certainly rebellious and sort of childlike in the last couple of episodes, but in this episode they just lay it on so thick. Just every single thing she does is bitch and moan. Like, she doesn't do anything else for the entire episode. And it feels like it's a different character to me.
I mean, who knows? Maybe just as she's getting older, she wants more independence, but isn't quite able to achieve that. Not justifying it per se, but I'm just kind of trying to... Okay, no, I lied. I'm trying my best to justify it.
How old is she supposed to be in the show?
In the show, she is 17. I think Viserys mentioned it when they were arguing about marriage.
17. So she's 17 in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, like, I guess I kind of get it. Like, teenagers can be rebellious and all that, but I don't know. I feel like she moved backwards over the last 3 years, and I would have liked to have seen some sort of forward progress for her character that happened during the time skip.
I mean, who knows? Maybe I can ask my dad about my sister if she was ever this much of a cunt when she was 17. Alright. But with that, we kind of get to the hunting scene, where Viserys kind of gets off his horse and is kind of told, like, we're getting close to this white hart.
Yeah, and he touches poop.
Mm-hmm.
Sniffs the poop.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what you gotta do when you go hunting. I mean, you take up that shit, you get a good sniff, you pop it into your mouth, get a little taste, so that way you know the size and the weight and the age of the animal.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely because we need to know these things about the animal, not because we have a scat fetish.
Exactly. So, with that... Also, wait, I just realized, Viserys takes off his glove, and
Yeah,
then...
he takes off the glove, because he needs to really feel the texture of the shit. You can't fully see how fresh it is through a glove.
Oh, God. Okay.
And then Otto lays it on thick, you know. He's like, ooh, that's a royal symbol. If the gods did wish to show their favor...
On your son of all days, on his name day.
Yeah, then this would be how they do it. And, you know, everyone knows Viserys is real into symbols and shit. Man likes dreams. So, he's obviously eating that shit up.
I wouldn't say he's eating it up, per se, but I think this is definitely giving him some strong conflictions. And I think the only thing that this kind of adds... Nope, never mind. We're back to the drinking scene.
Yep, now we're to... which... I love this scene.
Oh, it's great.
At least, I mean, again, Viserys is just fucking killing it.
Man is knocking it out of the park each and every time.
Yeah.
Right. So, Jason Lannister walks up with a spear, and he's all like, "Hey, Viserys, I'd like to honor you with this gift, using this very nice Lannister gold spear or whatever, in order to kill the White Hart on this momentous occasion." Obviously, he's trying to kind of kiss the ass of royalty.
Right. Like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to point out, he gives the spear to the queen's like maid or whatever. The king inspects the spear and then passes it off to the maid. The spear is no longer in the possession of Lannister.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'll say about that for now.
Oh, right. Okay, I think I see where you're going about this. All right. Oops.
And so then we get the fantastic scene where Jason Lannister decides to see how much of his foot he can fit in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. All right, he brings up how he would like very much to wed Rhaenyra. He thinks that he's a great match for his daughter. Viserys...
And the throne on High Rock would soften the blow of no longer being the heir to the throne.
Well, so before we get into that, Viserys still has a couple of good lines, like when
he does.
When Jason says, giving strength to House Targaryen. Viserys is clearly drunk at this point, and he does not want to deal with this political bullshit.
Yeah.
So he's all like, "Oh, do you think Targaryens lack for strength?" Jason has an interesting response. If someone offered you more dragons, would you not take them? He's like, "Oh, do you got dragons, motherfucker?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Jason clearly not taking the hits. He, again, swings his dick around saying, "Oh, come on, House Lannister, we're the second richest, we're very influential and powerful, and it's a good position. It's like the second best position aside from Queen, which sadly Rhaenyra is not going to be." And Viserys
she'll feel herself well compensated for her loss in station.
Viserys, of course, the fuck you talking about?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Here's Jason coming off as a complete and utter moron, as he keeps saying, well, like, I assumed you would, like, name Aegon as your heir because he's your firstborn son. Viserys is clearly not happy about it. They have this kind of, like, back and forth. But in this entire thing, it just makes Jason come off as an idiot to me, because if he were to... Let's say that his plan works well. You know, Viserys agrees or whatever, and he's betrothed to Rhaenyra. Wouldn't he want Rhaenyra to be queen?
You'd think so.
So it's...
That would be what you think.
Yeah, so, like, whatever his, like, maybe opinion on whether a firstborn son should be before Rhaenyra or not, in my eyes is somewhat irrelevant because of the obvious benefit that he would gain if Rhaenyra was queen and his wife. Because then that would mean Lannisters would become kings of the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe he's just an idiot. Maybe he actually, like, really did think that it was obvious that Viserys was going to put Aegon above Rhaenyra, so he just kind of went with that assumption and it fucked him over in this case. But yeah, I'm not.
They definitely seem to be characterizing him as an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's that stupid, but he definitely doesn't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed.
He ain't no Tywin or Tyrion, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Alright, so after that verbal thrashing, Viserys is like, thanks for the gift. Fuck off. And he continues to drink. And Otto kind of saunters up and takes his position next to Viserys.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings up probably the best marriage idea, proposal, that Viserys could do in this situation.
I would say still maybe second best, because he gets another here in a second. But I will say Otto's proposal it's better than some freaking Lannister prick.
Yeah, definitely better than some Lannister prick. Though I will say, so obviously, you know, it's incest, which is, you know, never that good. But this is Game of Thrones. Incest, especially with the Targaryens, is different. So,
yeah, the king does not even faze him that incest is being recommended. What phases him is that marriage or betrothal with a 2-year-old is being recommended. Again, he's like age.
To a 17-year-old woman.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's gross by today's standards, but I'm still kind of like, I don't know. I feel like the royalty would be like, whatever.
So yeah. So in the books, it's slightly different because this marriage is obviously proposed. And I don't know which one I prefer one way or the other, because in the books, it's much more of a clear mistake. Because Viserys' reasoning in the books is more so along the lines of Rhaenyra and Aegon just don't get along. Because Rhaenyra's younger in the books, so the age gap isn't quite 15 years. I think it's only quote-unquote, 10 years between the two. So, like, by the time, you know, they would be married, Aegon would be, like, you know, 14 or somewhere around there, and Rhaenyra would be 24. So, like, and this is going to get a little gross, but still at a good age for childbearing.
Yeah.
Whereas in the show, a 15-year gap, I think, might be pushing that envelope a bit, because then she would be, like, 30. Not saying it's impossible to have it at that age, but I do think it's much more risky.
Mm-hmm.
Though not immensely. I mean, my sister, like, she was married around 30 and had kids around that age, so 2 of them, not at the same time, but, you know, so not out of the question by any means, but the age gap is a bigger concern in these medieval times, I would assume.
Yeah. Which does bring up a point that not a single person ever mentions when discussing why a king might be a better choice than a queen is, like, a queen has to have kids, and if the queen's the one who's in charge, you might not want her to be, like, out of service for potentially months at a time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, though, in the case of Westeros, I won't speak too much on, like, actual monarchies, but they have, like, the Hand of the King, they have the Small Council, and there have been kings who have shirked their duties before. So, Rhaenyra, going off maternity leave for a couple of months probably would not be that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, it would certainly be manageable, but if I was trying to convince somebody to replace a woman as heir, I might mention it.
Okay. Have you put a lot of thought into this, Dutch, in trying to step down, make sure the patriarchy isn't destroyed?
Yeah, I was thinking I would try and start a revolution and make America into a monarchy, was what I was thinking. And just started, mulling over all the intricacies of such an idea.
Like women's suffrage, that needs to be rectified.
Well, it's a monarchy, so men's suffrage is also gone.
Alright. Anyways, getting back to the video at hand. So, he brings it up and Viserys pretty much, like, dismisses it. It's like, age gap. Too much. Too big. Which, fair enough, because obviously it's... I mean, granted, Rhaenyra doesn't seem to get along with Aegon, but Aegon doesn't seem too upset with Rhaenyra in any situation.
I mean, he's 2.
Yeah. Just saying.
So, you can't... he doesn't, have very hard opinions on things.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I want to bring this up now, since we're on the topic of Aegon, but I remember, like, seeing kind of, like... I can't remember. It was like a news article, probably from Vox or some shit. But the writers apparently spoke about Aegon, the child, becoming worse than Joffrey and Ramsay. There are 2 ways to interpret that. One of them is okay. The other is no. No. I would hate if they did that to Aegon.
So I feel like we might be getting into some spoilery stuff here.
Yeah, maybe. So I'll hold off. But that's kind of like what they seem to be going for, which I'm not a huge fan of. So, sorry. Just had to get that off my chest real fast.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, you still don't know which way they're going to go, apparently. Alright. So, like, Viserys kind of snaps at Otto, just like, I am done with all this fucking politicking! And Otto wisely says, like, we'll talk about this another time.
Yeah. He makes a hasty retreat.
Yep. But there is still one more marriage proposal.
Yeah, there's still a little more politicking to be had. As
Varys is getting all fucked up with the wine.
Is this a scene where he grabs the pitcher? I'm not quite there yet.
Well, either way.
Oh yeah. Him grabbing the pitcher of wine, like, I've been there. Like, he does such a fantastic job of, like, I know exactly how he feels right there.
But we have Lionel Strong telling Viserys about the situation with Rhaenyra. They got a fun little whines, like, how can I be a king when I can't control my daughter? And he says the greatest of all our kings, his roughest situation was dealing with his children.
Mm-hmm. So Lionel's definitely seems like the smartest of everyone on the small council to me.
I don't know about the smartest. He feels the most genuine.
Oh, certainly the most genuine. And I feel like that being more genuine works well with Viserys.
Mm-hmm.
Although obviously Otto's scheming works really well on him as well. So
yeah. And so obviously he kind of asked the king, like, hey, do you want to know my opinion on who your daughter should marry? And Viserys is all like, let me guess, you want her to marry your son. Which, not the worst choice, but clearly if it was an option, it would be like the 5th best choice. Mm-hmm. And even then, that's ignoring all other houses, and we're just looking into the options. Because House Strong isn't bad, but they're Lords of Harrenhal, and Lords of Harrenhal have a history of not lasting long. Or, not lords, families of Harrenhal, because that's Harrenhal's whole shtick. People who control Harrenhal die.
I didn't realize halls had shticks, but You know,
Well, no,
in Game of Thrones they do.
yeah, but and I'm not saying that in regards to like that obviously means Lionel Strong is going to die, but it's just it has a history of eventually houses going extinct.
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, so don't worry about that. But he does bring up, of course, the Valerians again, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I think this is the second best matchup because obviously you have all the benefits of to a certain extent Aegon's matchup in one way or another, some differences. But the reason why I prefer Aegon is because obviously the civil war that's going to inevitably crop up is going to be between those two, Rhaenyra and Aegon. Wedding those two pretty much neuters any sort of rebellion that may crop up. Like, there's some, like, arguments that you can make that if Rhaenyra marries Aegon, then a different Dance of Dragons might crop up. Like Daemon Targaryen trying to take his rightful seat on the throne. Or the Valerians. Because Rhaenyra was named, they say, hey, if it turns out a woman can lead, then then Corlys can say my wife has a strong claim, and that starts that whole dance. I do think that these situations would be smaller in scope, though, than the original dance that we get.
Yeah, because it would be hard if the firstborn son is going to be king, even if he's not the heir. It would be hard to fight against that. It would be hard to make claims against that.
Yeah, and I feel like any issues between that match could be like somewhat kept to the Red Keep, and it would be like back and forth, and like it's lowering a civil war to like a bad marriage.
Yeah, but then if she marries Valerian, then that also kind of prevents the Dance with Dragons. The only person who would maybe have a problem with that would be Daemon, but then he's up against all of House Targaryen and all of House Valerian, which I think would also mitigate the Dance with Dragons quite a bit.
Interesting opinion, sir. You're fucking wrong, but interesting. You'll have to watch to see how things play out, I guess.
I mean, because I wouldn't expect House Valerian to be going against her if she's married to one of them.
With that, now that we're all... Because I'm getting really close to spoiling some shit, so let's go on to the camping scene.
Alright.
I don't care for this scene.
No, this scene is awful.
Yeah, like, the nice little talk between her and Corley... not Corley's. Kristen. Nothing too crazy. There's like, do you think the people of the realm will accept me? And he just says, like, they have to.
They do one thing that I think is important for Cole's character. He does say, Princess, I must make a final plea that we've returned to camp. They're at least trying to show that he's attempting to do his duty.
And get
at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So then we hear like some noise in the woods, and he draws his sword in order to defend the princess. Now, I actually thought that this was going to be the moment where the White Hart would appear, and like Kristen and Rhaenyra would kill it. So that would be like a big symbol. It's like that helps her gain a lot of support in her claim and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's clearly not what they did, though. Instead.
No.
Kristen is slowly walking up, and they build up the tension well enough, all things considered. Mm-hmm. Here's, like, the first issue I have. When the boar makes its appearance, there is plenty of time to react.
Yeah. Especially if you're, one of the best knights in the realm. I would think you would have pretty decent reaction time.
Yeah, like us as the viewer, we see the boar charging for a solid 4 seconds.
Yeah, and Cole just stands there and takes it.
And the boar hits him, not like fucking hell. Something has to
launches him.
Something has to be broken, right?
Yeah, Cole is at best seriously injured now.
Yep, and then the boar goes over to Rhaenyra, and
well, so that boar goes running off. Oh, you know what? Never mind. It's the same boar. I thought that second boar appeared.
No,
but it just turns around. It goes running towards Rhaenyra and decides to just kind of sniff her a little bit.
Give her some kisses, right? It's like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, so Rhaenyra's dead. That boar killed Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it to not have killed her in this scene.
Not at all.
And then Cole, in record time, recovers from being fucking launched and teleports to the princess's side to save her.
I don't know if that's record time, because the boar was, like, on top of her for 7 seconds.
I counted out. From the time Cole gets launched to him killing the boar is, like, 10 seconds.
I don't know if that's record time.
Dude just got launched. Dude has, like, broken kneecaps. I don't think he's getting back up in fucking... He might be able to get up in 10 seconds, but then be next to the princess and killing the boar. I don't buy it.
Except it's obvious that he didn't suffer any serious injury, so that whole 10 seconds, like, if his kneecaps were busted, okay, yeah, good on you. You got up, you grit your teeth, and you did your duty. But nah, he's fine. So he was just, like, laying there for, like, 5 seconds, finally gets up, and then stabs the boar. Either way, she should be dead.
Yeah, and, Robert Baratheon's a bitch, because apparently boars are bitch-made.
To be fair, Robert was drunk. I mean, granted, he was also, like, twice her size, twice as strong, and a beast even when he was...
Well, I'm even just Cole. Cole took that thing straight. Like, and just got back up moments later. He's not even wearing armor. He has his armor off. Like, I don't know.
To defend...
It's so dumb.
Listen, I can't let this Robert slander slide. Obviously, the boar that killed Robert was way bigger. Like, it was a monster boar, alright? That's the only reason.
Yeah.
There's no way Robert would have been killed by this little piglet wannabe.
And then now we get what the writers think is a replacement for character development. The princess stabs the boar repeatedly. And that's character development right there.
I think you're missing the point of this scene and the development that it gives. The weight of her stabbing a boar that almost killed her. The development that she can go through. Because now we know that she's willing to kill to save her life.
Yeah, and that was never a part of the princess's character. Like, that was never an aspect of her character that we were concerned about or that anyone else was concerned about. Like, this has nothing to do with any of the characterization of the princess up till now.
Now, hold on. I think you're being rather dismissive of this whole situation. Because granted, 99% of people are willing to kill a wild animal to save their life. But there's those 1%, you know, those vegans, those vegetarians, you know, who want to keep the animal safe. They're not willing. So that, for all we know, Rhaenyra was a vegetarian. I haven't seen her eat meat.
She could be a I feel like we might have seen her eat meat. I can't swear to it, but it seems possible.
You might.
I feel like in the dinner scene with her father, she was eating meat.
It was tofu.
Maybe so. But like maybe if at the start of the episode they'd had a line where she was like, "Oh, I really want to finally kill an animal. I've, always wanted to be a great hunter," or something like that, then they could call this character development. But she showed no interest in hunting, so there's none of that.
All
it's
right.
basically just bullshit.
All right.
Or boar shit, I should say.
Okay, I'll stop being devil's advocate and say, yeah, I entirely agree with you. Now, with that, the next one, we get Viserys and Alicent next to the bonfire. And I want to say this is probably, like, the best scene in the episode.
I could be convinced.
Because we obviously have a very drunk Viserys just laying out his heart and his conflictions and his worries, as well as all these other kind of signs he's dealing with, with the white hair, along with his dreams. Because as far as I'm aware in the books, there's no mention of Viserys being a dreamer, but it's not unheard of for Targaryens to have this gift. It's weird that
I think that's his point in this episode, is that he wanted to be a dreamer so desperately, but he's not.
Maybe I'm kind of remembering it wrong, but I thought he was saying that he had dreams of his son on the Iron Throne.
Well, he did have dreams of things, but they weren't prophecies. They were just normal dreams.
Oh.
But he wished, he was hoping so desperately that they were prophecies that it affected his decision making. And so in a way he, blames himself for his wife's death and stuff like that.
Because I interpreted it as, and there is some element to that, but I interpreted this as him having confliction because of his dreams of a son. And now that he has a son, what does he do now? Does he stick with his promise he made to Rhaenyra? Or does he name Aegon as his heir?
Yeah, I was thinking he was talking more about, how he mentioned to his wife in the first episode, how he saw Balon being born wearing Aegon's crown. I was thinking he was more referring to that.
Mm-hmm.
And how that dream ended up being wrong. I sought that vision again night after night, but it never came again. And then he says something about that killing, and my obsession killed Rhaenyra's mother. So to me, this scene comes off as him being regretful about his faith in his dreams.
Mm-hmm. But then he goes into naming Rhaenyra as his heir. How he thought that would make due for all the wrongs that he's done, for lack of a better term. And Alicent doing his best to try and help him out of this. And then he kind of just snaps, I never imagined that I would remarry and I would have a son. And it's like that little moment. And then he goes, what if I was wrong? Along the lines, and this is the confliction of does he keep Rhaenyra as his heir, or does he come to the conclusion that no, the dreams were true and Aegon is the rightful king? So I think we're both right.
Yeah, I think there's aspects of both in this. He's obviously doubting everything. He's doubting if his dreams are right. He's doubting if Rhaenyra was the correct choice of heir. He's doubting all the decisions he's made that lead up to this point.
God,
a lot of doubts.
I think this is the best scene in the episode and maybe the best scene in the show so far.
And you know what I would call this?
Character development?
Character development. Done properly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have him stab a fucking boar in the neck over and over again.
All right. Then we get to the next part where Viserys is riding along in order to get this here stag, which is not white. I can't believe Viserys is about to kill a minority deer.
Which, I would like to say again, he did a fantastic job acting drunk. He is also doing a fantastic job acting hungover.
Yeah.
I can practically see him holding in the vomit in some parts of this scene.
Yeah. Some people have said that this goes a bit more than him just kind of being hungover and drunk. Some people say that that this is hinting at his just his failing health in general.
I don't know about his failing health in general, but there's definitely aspects of his unsure about whether Aegon should be the heir, and then when the stag's not white, a part of him wishes it had been white because that would have been the sign. That would have given him a correct choice to make. But then another part of him is glad that it's not white because that means Rhaenyra was the correct choice and that he can stand by his words. So he's got a bunch of, again, mixed emotions about the stag.
That's actually something I didn't really consider, and
that's pulled partially from the showrunner commentary at the end.
So yeah, your ass got it.
So I will say that is one part of the showrunner commentary that I really liked. I was like, oh, that's some decent insight into the characters. They actually sound like showrunners for once. What a novel concept.
But yeah, so I think that adds a lot to it, and it was already a pretty good scene as it was then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the best scenes where, like, even if you don't know the real deep inclinations of it, it's still a good scene. But when you learn or figure it out yourself, the grander aspect of it.
Oh, continue. Sorry.
But when you figure out it or learn the grander aspect of the scene, and it just elevates it. Like, man, the writers are really doing great with Viserys.
Yeah, Viserys is, at this point, the best written character in the show, and possibly the best acted.
Yeah. The only character who probably comes close is Daemon.
Yeah.
And we'll get it more into Daemon later, but yeah, this is a very Daemon absent episode, which is interesting considering he's like been a favorite of everyone since the show started.
Yeah, he does get the big final scene.
Yeah.
And so Viserys approaches the stag, and Lionel hands him the spear. Or Lannister hands him the spear. How the fuck did the Lannister kid get the spear again?
Maybe
he gave it to him.
Yeah, but it's not that big of a deal. I can imagine, like, Viserys had, some sort of, what do you call those guys who like carry all the golf clubs? A caddy?
Yeah.
Like, he had someone.
And Lionel went up to the caddy and was like, "Give me that spear. I'm gonna go present it to the king again."
Yeah. So it's a little weird, but I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, it's not. I would call it a nitpick, but it's still like why? Why does Lionel give him the spear twice?
I mean, I think he's just.
I don't know why I keep calling him Lionel Lannister.
It's James. To be fair, there is a Lionel Lannister, and Lionel Lannister just rolls off the tongue really well.
Yeah, but then there's also a Lionel Stone, so it gets confusing if you start mixing up the names.
Yeah, it doesn't help, I'll tell you that. Am I wrong? There's a Lionel Frey. Maybe there isn't a Lionel Lannister, but they just go so well together. Anyways.
I mean, everyone loves alliteration.
Well, after the whole killing of the stag, we then get to see Rhaenyra and Kristen just hanging out. She's still covered in blood and whatnot. And they see the white hart. And I feel like obviously the writers are hinting at, like, this is proof that she's the rightful heir.
Uh-huh.
And Kristen, motherfucker, like, looks at the heart and draws his sword, like, how the fuck are you going to catch and kill it?
Yeah, I know. That was pretty stupid. I mean, I guess if it charges them, he wants to be ready. Well, so, as far as the symbolism of her seeing the stag, if seeing a white hart is all that's required to, prove your rightful heir, then shouldn't the royal hunter be the rightful heir? He saw it first.
Well, to be fair, I don't know if he saw it. I think he was just like, hinting at...
Well, how else would you know it's white?
Well, he ate the shit, remember?
You can't tell the difference between white and brown stag shit.
Are you sure? I think you just...
It all tastes the same, I guarantee it.
Alright, but either way, you could make the argument that now, hey, Kristen is the rightful king.
Yeah, I still think first come, first serve. I'm going royal hunter for the Iron Throne.
Alright, you can start the faction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a scene that exists.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little cliche, a little on the nose.
Yeah, but to be fair, Rhaenyra is a bit more of a cliched character. She's pretty much a princess who doesn't want to be princess, but she does want to be queen.
Wait, so does she not want to be princess? Because, like, that's my thing about her whole bitching about having responsibilities. Is, like, she seems like she wanted to be the heir. It seems like that's what she wanted. So how come now that she's the heir, she is so whiny about having to do the things that an heir has to do?
Well, it's the whole thing. She wants all the authority and power, but none of the responsibility.
Yeah, which is irritating. I find it irritating.
To be fair, I mean, I am interpreting it as it's supposed to be irritating. I don't know what the fuck the writers want.
I sure hope it's supposed to be irritating. But again, I just feel like she wasn't this irritating in past episodes.
Well, with that squared away, though, she rides in on her horse, dragging the boar behind, still covered in blood. And you have, like, all sorts of people, like, looking over at her and being like, damn, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah, she, her Kingsguard killed a boar for her. That's pretty impressive.
They don't know that. They just see her walking in with the boar carcass covered in blood. And in Westeros, where, like, masculine and martial kind of traits are really important for a king, or a leader, I should say, this could do a bit. Get some word around, like, yeah, Rhaenyra, the princess, killed a boar. Not even Robert could do that.
It's not all looks of admiration. Like, Lannister gives her a disgusted face.
Does he?
Lannister looks like he's about to throw up.
Yeah, you're right. He's got that kind of wrinkled forehead and nose look.
Yeah, and Otto and the king also don't look thrilled. The king maybe more so just
confused.
A little confused. But Otto looks, it's kind of like Lannister. He looks a little disgusted.
Well, of course, no matter what, Otto's going to look disgusted.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, Viserys is just like, what the fuck happened?
Mm-hmm.
But then, everyone's back in King's Landing. They're riding up to the Red Keep. Through the streets. Sorry, had to refresh. I'm wondering if both of us using HBO is making this a little more difficult. Have you been running into issues?
Yeah, I've been refreshing periodically.
Okay, so maybe there is kind of an issue with both of us watching. So, anyways, we get Alicent, relaxing as her father comes to visit. And of course, and this is probably the most blunt we'll ever see Otto be. Where he pretty much is just like telling his daughter, like, hey, we gotta make sure that Aegon becomes the heir.
I feel like he's been more blunt with his daughter, just generally speaking. Like, I feel like he was pretty blunt when he first started having her visit the king.
Oh yeah, he's always been more blunt with his daughter, but this is when he's at his most blunt.
Yeah.
Alright, so they kind of have their little back and forth, as Alicent seems very against the idea of, like, arguing for Aegon to be named as heir over Rhaenyra, because she obviously has that confliction of still somewhat being not a friend, but a past friend with Rhaenyra.
Yeah,
but
yeah, she still defends Rhaenyra to my bafflement.
Mm-hmm. And Otto, plays with her emotions a little bit, like, hey, I mean, don't you want your son to be king? As well as playing into the whole situation about, like, how he's quite confident that even if she was, like, as good of a leader as Jaehaerys, the fact that she's a woman will tear the Westeros apart.
Mm-hmm.
Which I imagine, like, is I don't know, because the reason isn't because she's a woman. The reason is because, like, there are other options who are males along those lines. Like, if she was the only option, there wouldn't be issues. Like, people would still grumble and complain, but I don't think it would go into full-blown civil war.
Yeah, but I guess there's always going to be other options. Like, I don't know, the chances of there only being one female heir and no other options.
Daenerys pulled it off.
Yeah, but that was after her entire family got, a little genocided.
Alright. But yeah, not a whole lot to go into that, but we see her visit Viserys.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the scene where I first noticed Viserys missing his fingers. Hello? You here?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at his fingers.
Like, you have... It's like one particular scene where he's lifting up the cup with his left hand. But anyways...
Of course it froze.
While you're looking for that, we can talk about the scene of itself. Viserys is getting over his hangover.
Yeah.
And right when Alicent walks in and asks if they can talk, he's immediately like, God damn it, you want to talk about Rhaenyra as well.
Yeah, because everyone wants to talk about Rhaenyra.
And she seems to be kind of like advising him as well, kind of like saying, I told you she wouldn't like Jason Lannister.
Yeah, but she is, unlike everyone else, not pushing him to force her to marry anyone.
Mm-hmm. And she gives him like arguably pretty decent advice, like the only way you're probably going to make her agree to marriage is if you let her make that decision herself.
Mm-hmm.
Which will work probably in getting her to choose a husband. However, for the realm, I question her judgment. Her political inclinations have not impressed me at all.
Yeah, like, it might be best for the king's relationship with Rhaenyra to let Rhaenyra choose, but it's not best for Rhaenyra necessarily, or, of course, the realm, for Rhaenyra to choose.
Mm-hmm. But kind of like going over that a little bit, she notices a letter, which is from Vaemond Velaryon, who is stated to be the Sea Snake's brother, and as a book nerd, I have to say, actually, he is the Sea Snake's nephew, not brother in the books.
Oh. Wonder why they changed it.
I would imagine it's because the actor is like probably around the same age as, like, closer to Steve Toussaint, who's Corlys. So it'd make more sense for him to be a brother when looking at the two scenes than a nephew.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't have any, as far as I'm aware, like ramifications or anything, so that change is fine.
And Vaemond is asking for help at the Stepstones.
Because apparently they're losing their war.
Yeah, things aren't going so hot.
Yeah. But ignoring all that, Viserys, is still like, I don't want to send them help. And Alicent, I don't know if I want to call it being manipulative, but she does kind of play on Viserys' morals, saying, what's best for the realm? Should they win or should they lose?
Well, and she doesn't even... She's like, what's best for the realm? There being pirates in the Stepstones or there not being pirates in the Stepstones? And I'm like, we are so far past that, honey. Like the issue with sending help is no longer whether we want pirates attacking us or not. The issue is that you have two powerful members of royalty who have gone against the king's orders, like, blatantly. And so now he can't just back down and be like, okay, you were right, I'll help you. Like, it's a bad look for him, and it encourages that kind of behavior.
I mean, to be fair, 2 years of the fighting and whatnot, like, who knows how many lives are being lost, as well as how much this war can probably be disrupting trade for Westeros in general. So, at this point, maybe there are more kind of political reasons to do that. But kind of backing up a bit, though, Viserys has another kind of great line that I like. It's a small, quick one, but he's like, I am cursed with making decisions that one will always love, but others will hate. Or, like, trying to please one person pisses someone else off. Yeah. Welcome to life, buddy.
Right? That's life.
But... like, kind of ignoring kind of like the political aspects, I don't know, because like the justification of him now sending aid in my eyes still makes some sense, it's not too contradictive, and it's still a decision that I could see Viserys making, whether it's right or wrong. You and I may disagree on that front, but it's still a decision that I can see him making.
Oh yeah, I could for sure see him making that decision.
You
Actually, I would say that it is the only decision he would make, from what we know of Viserys.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, next we get also seeing the table reminds me, hey, we didn't get a single proper small council scene, so hey, congratulations, Dutch.
Yeah, we didn't get a scene where they're sitting around at the small council, but like the whole scene where he's drunk, that's basically a small council scene.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
Hmm.
But real quick, back on his fingers, he's missing 2 fingers.
Yes.
When did he lose the other one?
No idea.
Man's just falling apart, I guess.
He probably cut that one on the Iron Throne in the 3-year time skip.
Yeah, I guess so.
I like to picture that instead of a slight cut, he just slammed his fist on the throne and just straight up chopped it straight off.
Well, the stumps look kind of gross.
Yeah, rotted
it
away.
doesn't seem like they amputated them far enough back. That shit looks kind of infected still.
Right. But with that, now back to Rhaenyra and Viserys. Rhaenyra continues to be a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And Viserys,
Which I thought she was supposed to have developed as a character now.
but I guess stabbing a boar developed her in other ways.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. But Viserys, again, top-notch acting from his point. Not to say that the actress isn't acting her heart out, but I just feel like the writing around her character is just immensely less interesting.
Yeah, I would agree.
So they have to go back and forth where Viserys is spelling this out. Bitch, we are royalty. We have to marry people in order to make strong alliances.
Yeah. Which you would hope he wouldn't have to spell that out to her.
Especially because she's the heir.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and it's bringing up this whole kind of thing, you obviously intend to replace me as heir with Aegon, because it's the boy you always wanted and whatnot. And I don't know, this is just a retread of what happened in the previous episode. And maybe something happened in the 3-year time skip, but we haven't seen Viserys do anything that would make her, question it. If anything, we've seen the exact opposite. As anyone who brings it up, he tells them, what the fuck you on about?
I guess you could argue she hasn't been there for any of that. But yeah, he's really done nothing to give her any doubt that he's going to keep her as heir.
Yeah, especially considering Aegon's been around for 2 years. If he was going to name him as heir, he probably would have done it within that time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I feel like this is trudging up kind of the similar things from the second episode that we didn't need to, that I feel like had already been somewhat solved. Not to say, or at the very least, they could have brought it up in a different way. I don't know, go the lazy route and make her overhear Viserys drunken rambling when he was saying did I make the right choice?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, her character just went backwards during the time skip.
All right. Anyway, so Viserys, eventually Viserys pretty much says, all right, look, you pick who you want to marry, all right? I'll support it, but keep these things in mind.
Yeah, and then he basically says he has no intention of replacing her. And I gotta say, what a fucking idiot. What has she done in the past 3 goddamn years to give you any faith in her ability to rule?
Yeah, it's definitely not exactly looking good.
Yeah, she has done nothing kingly in the entire show, except for where I guess she did the thing with Daemon in the second episode. But that was fucking 3 goddamn years ago.
Yeah, and, well, I mean, she killed a boar.
She killed a boar, and that makes you a king, I guess. She killed a boar and saw a white heart, so there you go.
Yeah, this definitely plays out different from the books, but I don't want to tell you that, because if I feel like if I do, then you'll have an idea where this kind of goes for her. So I might bring it up later whenever she possibly gets married. Because, I mean, you don't know. Maybe she doesn't.
Yeah, I have a few guesses as to who she might marry. But it could be a character who hasn't even been introduced at this point, for all I know.
Yeah, nope, that's spoilers. Never mind. Man, I wish you read the book. A part of me really wishes you did kind of like listen to the book so we could like both kind of go into that. But the reason I have you is because you didn't read the books. It's a new aspect.
We'll get to talk about it all in time.
Yeah, it's an inferior aspect, but it's a new aspect. So now we get to the final scenes in relation to the Stepstones. And this is where my opinion on this episode very much sours.
And this is where my sour opinion on the episode turns into strong hatred.
Okay.
Strong hatred for this episode.
So even like just to start off, we see that there's some ships sailing in the back. And
yeah, just letting trebuchets yeet at them.
Yeah. Why are their trebuchets out? They've been fighting and whatnot. Wouldn't have Damon or Leonor torched all the trebuchets at this point?
You would think so.
Because they're just hiding out in caves. I don't think they're firing trebuchets inside the caves.
I don't know how you would.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, those trebuchets are pretty fucking accurate.
Yeah, pretty damn precise.
Because trebuchets, from what I understand, were used for sieges. Because a castle doesn't move. You never really had situations where you would deploy siege or trebuchets in like field battles or to hit moving targets.
Yeah, hitting a ship with a trebuchet would be like, I don't know, hitting a dragon with a ballista or something like that, you know?
I would defend the trebuchet slightly, but... So, we are greeted over to a war council between all the Valerians, and I have to say... So, I got a lot of issues with this. So first off, we have Leonor Valerian introduced, the son of Corlys Valerian, dragon rider and whatnot. Was it just me, or is he a really bad actor for what few lines he got?
Yeah, he didn't kill it for sure.
It's such a monotone delivery for them, and like obviously I have my issues with the casting of Corlys Valerian and whatnot, but I will give Steve Toussaint credit. His acting is good.
Oh yeah,
like with his portrayal of the character and whatnot, he's great. I would love to see him in all sorts of other different positions. He would be a great like Bravosi, or a Southern Islander. Like he would be great. I'd love to see him in these kinds of roles. This guy, Leonor, this actor, I don't want to see him in anything.
Yeah, he's not. He didn't inspire me with his acting. That's for sure.
And he's going to have some more lines in the future. Anyways,
and so they're discussing why they're losing, and basically what it boils down to is the pirates keep retreating into the caves.
Yes.
And I guess as far as these guys are concerned, caves are an impenetrable defense. If you're in the cave, you're untouchable.
Well, we have to think
There's no way to get to someone in a cave.
Well, we have to think about this in a few ways. Like, let me try to defend them at first. So obviously the caves are used in order to minimize the effectiveness of the dragon. You and I already talked about, how much that would actually minimize the effect, as well as there just being other strategies. But something we need to keep in mind is this is House Valerian and Daemon versus the Triarchy. Like 3 free cities. And to put it in perspective, 1 free city is somewhat equivalent to a kingdom of Westeros, So imagine if House Valerian was fighting the North, Riverlands, and Vale. So that's kind of like the numerical disadvantage they're facing right now. The only reason...
I don't know that they have that kind of numerical disadvantage, because again, they're just fighting the pirates from the Triarchy that are over in the Stepstones.
Yeah.
So it's not like all of the Triarchy soldiers are out there.
Alright, hold on. Let me kind of go back, because I feel like they mentioned fighting the Triarchy.
They do say that, but like, even if they're fighting, even if they're calling it the Triarchy at this point, it's not the full force of the Triarchy. It's not like they've gone across the narrow sea and they're, at the gates of the free cities. Like, they're fighting on home turf against. I'm just saying, I don't think there's any way that it's the full force of the Triarchy. It's just a detachment, I guess you could call it.
I mean, all I can really say is that in the books, it is the full force of the Triarchy.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get that impression at all. And later in the battle, it looks like House Valerian has the numbers advantage to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, yeah, if that's the case, if how you kind of look at it is correct, then yeah, there shouldn't be much difficulty with the Valerians simply lining up and kind of like charging and heading into like the entrances of the caves. They talk about how there's archers, So here's what I'm thinking. I think the main issue is likely those archers. But then again, like,
they have dragons.
Yeah, you can just have the dragons keep the archers inside while you send the soldiers into the caves.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the caves make it to where the numerical advantage, like, assuming you're right that the Valerians have a numerical advantage, the caves make it, 300. But the quality of these, pirates doesn't seem all that impressive compared to the
No,
Valerians.
they don't seem very capable.
So, yeah, it's definitely not doing an amazing job of me thinking that there aren't appropriate or intelligent answers for this in multitudes of ways.
Do have an intelligent answer for this, Jasper. They have to bait the pirates out of the cave. And how do you do this? You send a single knight. You send a single suicidal knight out to bait all of the pirates out of the cave. Such an obvious solution.
Now here,
why didn't we think of that?
So now here's something that I will kind of say. Let's kind of switch it up a bit. Let's assume that I'm right and that the pirates actually outnumber the Valerians.
Okay.
And they're hiding in the caves because of the dragon. So that would mean sending your army into the caves does not guarantee success.
Right.
I mean, obviously they could just starve them out. That's like another option. But, maybe they can't, but maybe there's secret passages for smaller ships to get supplies to them. Kind of like remember Casterly Rock had that secret cave that Tyrion used to fuck his horse?
Yeah.
Maybe there's caves like that. And Davos, he's famous for getting through a ship blockade in order to get food and resources to Storm's End during that siege. So, whatever. Sure. Let's say that they have that. So you can't properly starve them out.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, it makes sense that you do want to bait them out in order to kill them. In order to effectively use the dragons to have that advantage to claim victory.
Right. But how would you go about baiting them out?
So, and I wish I could take credit for this, but I can't. But I did come across someone else who said, you know what? We can talk about that later. Let's go into, like, what they do. Which is also, real fast, this Vaemon Valerian, the brother to Corlys, is an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like almost on the levels of like Varys in season 7 or 8, whichever season he dies in. I can't. 8. It was, definitely 8.
Yeah, but this has the advantage of not being a character assassination because we don't know this character.
Yeah, but he's pretty much like. But he says Daemon is the reason we're losing this war. Bitch, what?
Yeah.
He is the reason. Like in the books, he's the only reason you have a chance, man.
Yeah.
And granted, he's less important in the show because Laenor is also a dragon rider, but Daemon is still a huge asset. There is no way, like, unless he made some terrible, terrible decisions that we are just not aware of in the war, I can't think of any justification for this.
Yeah, guy's real dumb. It's just, yeah, he just spews nonsense for no reason.
And he like kind of almost talks about treason, like, you know, if the Seven Kingdoms won't follow Daemon, why should any of us? And
yeah, and of course, Coral has the appropriate response of like, "Shut your fucking mouth, you stupid fucking idiot."
But then we get to Damon kind of getting down there eventually. I like how there's I like how it's just not one suit of armor for all the background characters and whatnot. We have like a lot of different suits of armor, kind of to hint at that this is House Valerion, and what Damon brings is actually like a lot of sellswords and whatnot and cutthroats. Because that was the whole thing. It was House Valerion and Damon with a bunch of sellswords.
Where did Damon get money for sellswords?
I mean, you could probably promise the sellswords plunder.
I don't know.
Or he could be using Corlys' money as well.
Well, then they wouldn't really be Damon's sellswords. They'd be Corlys' sellswords.
Well, Corlys gives Damon the money, and Damon uses his, roguery charms in order to get more sellswords. Because I feel like fuck off, man. I'm trying to be positive. So now what I was kind of surprised about this is this entire bit, Damon doesn't say a single word.
Yeah. He does say quiet
through the entire thing. And then we get the messengers walking up.
Yeah.
And so now I kind of want to hear your thoughts first about this. What do you think about Damon committing assault?
I mean, it seemed... I don't know. I guess I have no clue what Damon's character is supposed to be anymore. Because up till now, I thought of him as more of a schemer kind of guy. But they keep showing scenes where he just does stupid shit. And so now I'm like, oh, is Damon just kind of like a brute who just wants the crown? I don't know.
So how I interpreted the scene, like when he reads that note and he gets pissed and he attacks the messenger, and I'm very happy that they actually pull him off rather than just letting him like kill the guy with a helmet.
Yeah.
But anyways, I interpret this, and there's like a lot to it, because this scene kind of justifies the retarded plan. Not for the plan being retarded, but why Damon does it. Because Damon, and especially with the previous episode, we know that Damon is kind of hunting for his own kind of glory at this point. He wants to be his own man to a certain point. And the message of Viserys now sending aid pisses him off, because it's like Viserys is about to take away his victory.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because he now knows that these resources are coming in, he's motivated to do this incredibly risky plan to achieve victory before Viserys can kind of overshadow and take the victory himself. Not to saying that's what Viserys is doing, but that's how Damon feels about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I agree with all of that.
So yeah, and it's this scene why I'm okay with them changing Viserys not funding it from the very beginning. Not only does it make sense for Viserys to not want to fund this war, but it adds this kind of like character dynamic and motivation. So this was a good change from the books as far as I'm concerned.
I guess I couldn't say, but I felt like Damon attacking the guy seemed out of character. I don't know.
I don't know if it's out of character.
But like I said, maybe I have no clue what Damon's character is anymore.
I mean, Damon's always been a very volatile, angry, brash man. So him like just attacking the guy doesn't strike me as, whoa, he would never do that.
Yeah.
I guess. He's a very... I mean, remember how he and the Gold Cloaks took care of King's Landing?
That's true. Maybe it's just Matt Smith. When I see him, I think of a more intelligent schemer.
You think of like a more doctor aesthetic.
Yeah.
Do you think...
And maybe that's throwing me off.
Like I said, that was like my kind of concerns with him at the very beginning. But I think he's still doing it amazingly well.
Yeah, I think he's still doing it justice.
All right, so he goes and lands on the island. He makes a makeshift white flag, and it seems he's about to surrender.
Right, which fake surrender Kind of scum move.
Dick move, but I wouldn't put it past Damon.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Just keep in mind, you can really only ever do this once.
Yeah. I mean, once per enemy, right?
It
depends on how much they know about you.
Yeah. Or how, like, famous this battle will become or whatever. And then we got the crab feeder coming on out.
Yeah, he shambles out of his little cave.
Looking over at Damon. And obviously, he looks up to the sky. You know, he's like, where the fuck is the dragon?
Yeah.
So, he's intelligent. He's cautious.
I mean...
But at the same time, the prize is too good, so he sends some men. Smart.
He sends a few men, and these men make the bold decision of approaching Damon spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, also, the way he sends the men, he nods his head.
Yeah.
And these dudes who are hiding in caves are just like, oh, he's nodded his head. I need to leave my cave now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do they know that he's given them an order?
Yeah, like, I wasn't a fan of how they handled the crab eater. I wasn't expecting a lot from him. I was expecting more from the show, actually, because they build him up quite a bit, right? And then this happens, like, there's, like, no character to him at all. It's like Discount Night King, except at least this time I didn't piss away 8 years of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of Discount Night King. So, yeah, I don't get his order. I guess he uses telepathy. His soldiers read his mind. I don't fucking know.
He's such a good general that he doesn't need to give away what he's planning with words. He just uses signs with a twitch of his head.
Yeah, just, he could just be popping his neck for all they know.
All right.
And then we got archers up on the cliff.
Yeah.
Which I would say, up on the cliff, pretty good vantage point. You could probably see any approaching armies from up there.
Indeed. But they're busy focusing on Damon. All of them in their entirety focus on Damien. Also, these are some strong archers because they knock and draw.
I noticed the same thing, yeah.
And they just hold that shit. Like,
I was thinking that might be why they're so inaccurate later on. Their arms are exhausted from holding full draw for who knows how long. And so then later on, their arms are too shaky and they can't aim properly.
To be fair to them, I would bet that such a long-distance shot like that would be immensely difficult, even with a lot of them firing at Damon. So I think the inaccuracy well, we'll get into that later, but this is where, like, the guard's holding the sword, and he, like, turns his back to Damon, which is...
Always a smart move, to turn your back on your enemy.
Which is stupid enough, but Damon doesn't attack then. He waits until the guard looks at him, then he makes his, like, little attack.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, why even let him hold your sword? Like, just cut him down, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so Damon starts being badass, cutting down each of these guys one at the one, does a flying knee to the jaw of one of them. And then...
Which, again, they're just, keeping distance between each other. They don't want to steal each other's glory or anything like that, right?
Yeah. And this is like an annoying thing for me. It might not be that bad, but then the arrows fly. And then we see the guy say loose.
Really?
Yeah, so right when Damon gives that flying knee to the jaw, the arrows fly and he takes cover and they hit. Then it cuts to the guy going loose, and then they fire.
I think that's supposed to be a separate volley.
I think so, but I don't like it. All right, so then he starts, like, running and running and running, arrows flying all... with how they're doing it, though, I think they should have done it to where, like, he would duck into cover, the volley would hit, then he would run again and continue on that, rather than constant sprinting with arrows firing at him, because it's just inconsistent with how the archers are doing it in volleys rather than fire at will.
I mean, I would think you have one target, so just let him aim and fire when they can. But Damon's, pulling the Jon Snow. The arrows can't hit me because I have too much plot armor. Mm-hmm. Just keep running.
Yeah, he's cutting some guys down one at a time.
Yeah, they continue to approach him one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
For the entirety of Damon's
I mean,
Suicide run.
it has to be a fair fight, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to team up on him.
All right.
That would be ridiculous.
All right, the crab feeder sends more guys, twitches his head,
Uh-huh.
and it shows him. He's still, like, looking up. He's keeping an eye out for that dragon.
Yeah.
And Damon, like, continues to cut them down, and credit where credit is due, this is at least, like, well shot. Like, it's still fun to watch this. It's just stupid. All right.
I don't know that it's fun to watch this. I wasn't having fun watching this.
Because of how stupid it was? Because I'm talking, like...
Because of how stupid it was.
Yeah, I'm saying that it's entertaining to watch without the stupidity. Granted, like, the stupidity is a big reason why one might have issues. But, hey, eventually, Damon does get shot by the arrows.
Uh-huh. Well, before that, Damon is cutting them down, and I counted, and there's about a 4-second gap between each soldier. And then Damon gets up to a guy who actually puts up a fight. The dude, like, punches Damon in the face, and Damon is fighting that guy for a solid 7 seconds. Nobody shows up. A second guy does not arrive to help with the fight.
Was that the last guy?
Second to last guy.
Oh, okay. Maybe that last guy who, like, stubbed his toe. Like, he had a rock in his shoe, had to get that out real fast.
Yeah, because Damon, he kills the guy who put up a fight, and then picks up his sword, and it does a quick cut, and he's killing another guy.
Mm-hmm. But hey, at least
they just...
At least the archers finally hit him.
The archers finally land a couple of shots. 3 shots, I think.
Yeah. And Damon is now pinned down. Crab feeder
he's now...
looks up one more time to the sky, make sure there's no dragons, and then, at this moment, he decides, when Damon is injured, and thus probably easier to capture, to send his entire fucking army.
Yeah, that's when you want to do it. Is when there's one injured enemy left. You want to send fucking everybody.
Just 20 good guys, 20 good men, that was it. And don't have them go one at a time in a group. That's all you needed.
Honestly, just send 2. If you send 2 people and they stick together, they can take Damon right now. There's no need for more than 2 people to go capture Damon right now.
Maybe, though I would say, send a handful at least, just in case, because Damon did just cut through a bunch of them like no sweat.
He cut through a bunch of them one at a fucking time.
I wouldn't put it past him to being able to cut 2 at a time.
I mean, maybe, but fighting 2 people is way harder than fighting 1.
I agree, but this is like, kind of a little bit of the fantasy bullshit. Either way, send like 5, bare minimum in my eyes. Either way, he's surrounded now.
And they do the classic surround him and then just kind of stand there.
And watch. Look at him.
Yeah.
But then, the Valerians are here now, all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, dragon just... They're known for being really sneaky dragons.
And so... obviously none of the soldiers notice. None of the archers seem to notice. Crabfeeder barely notices. And nobody notices the dragons showing up.
Yeah.
As it torches a lot of them. And... why? On God's green earth, after the dragon torches a fuck ton of them, don't they all immediately run back into the caves?
Not a clue. Not a clue. Because
the Valerians are coming in, and obviously the Valerians aren't coming from the caves. So, these guys, these pirates, can run back into the caves.
Yeah.
But they charge into the Valerians. And the archers are getting ready to support them. They get torched by the dragon, so they can't do shit no more.
And so, like, where the fuck did the Valerians come from?
Boats.
Boats? Invisible boats? They have invisible boats? They just appear on the beach.
Yeah.
And start charging in.
Yeah. The crab feeder's the only one to just head back into the cave.
Yeah, the crab feeder says fuck this. Maybe now would be a good time to, like, give an order with your words.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Fall back, maybe. Return to the safety of the caves.
Something like that.
Anyways, So the fight itself, like, it's again those mosh pit fights that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, I wrote generic fantasy battle with no strategy or formations ensues.
Plus a dragon adds a little bit more. Luckily he's not like torch. Like, no, wait, I think he does torch a little bit in
He
this
does
fight.
a little bit, but he also picks two guys up and drops them.
Yeah,
which is crazy to me because it's like, dude, you're on a dragon. That's less efficient than the next scene where like his dad kills two people with an axe or whatever.
yeah. But the weird thing is, it's like not long after he like does the whole drop, we see his dad fighting a bit more and whatnot, and the brother. But he torches a part of the battlefield where
Yeah.
these guys are engaged in melee. Wouldn't that kill like a couple of Valerians?
You would think so, but maybe not. Maybe he could tell. He could tell where it was safe to torch.
It would be safer to torch if the Valerians had a proper formation and they weren't mosh pitting like this. But who knows? Anyways, so Daemon went after the crab feeder. And he killed the crab feeder.
He did.
Yeah.
Wait, did I skip? There's a part where the kid goes to torch the archers, and he shouts the wimpiest Dracarys I've ever heard. Like, it sounds so pathetic.
He's definitely not the most masculine of dragon riders, which, to be fair, is accurate from the book.
I mean, it's not even about masculinity. Like, when Daenerys or the princess say Dracarys, it has more weight than that. Like, it's just pathetic.
Yeah, so Daemon kills the crab feeder, and I have to say, they either needed to give a better payoff to the death of the crab eater, or they needed to remove all that buildup for him.
Yeah, because are you serious? You killed him off camera? Like, what the fuck? That would be the big like one-on-one fight. The big, duking it out. Daemon versus the Pirate King. And they just did that off screen.
Yeah, not to mention, as far as I'm aware, this guy, like, and there's like some arguments, but I think it's been confirmed by like the showrunners that he has grayscale. And so would be kind of interesting how Daemon dealt with a guy with grayscale, considering if Daemon is touched by this guy, he gets grayscale.
Oh, so like the part where he's dragging him out of the cave, he has grayscale right there?
I'm actually kind of trying to get to
He's
that.
definitely touching him.
Yeah, is Daemon wearing gloves?
You would think so?
No,
but he,
Daemon is
back-
not wearing gloves.
oh, so he has grayscale now, is what you're saying.
I'd have to like go back to previous scenes where I can get a better look of the crab eater's hands, because I think the fact of grayscale is you have to like be in contact with the grayscale in order for it to pass.
I don't know. It looks like, yeah, that's skin-on-skin contact right there.
But let's say I have grayscale and it's completely infected my right arm, but my left arm is fine. You can touch my left arm without contracting grayscale if I'm aware.
Okay, but if you were killing somebody with grayscale, you wouldn't touch their skin. No one would touch their skin. You wouldn't want to touch them. They have fucking grayscale. You don't want to accidentally touch it. But I would also like to point out, Daemon kills the Pirate King inside of a cave. I thought that caves provided impenetrable defense. I thought it was impossible to kill the pirates when they were in the cave. So how did Daemon do it?
Well, I mean, so you're wondering how Daemon killed him?
Yeah, but he was in a cave. You can't kill the pirates when they're in a cave. We established at the start of the scene.
Oh, come on, that's being a little disingenuous.
I mean, that's what they're saying. They're saying they go in the caves and we can't attack them when they're in the caves. I'm being dramatic, but it's still the cave excuse is so dumb.
Okay. I will say, though, and I'll have to educate myself on grayscale, Daemon is clearly covered in blood.
Oh, yeah.
Blood from this crab feeder guy. So, if I am wrong, and you don't need direct contact with Grayscale to get it, then bitch got Grayscale.
Definitely got some grayscale.
I'll have to look into that a little bit. But, so yeah. So now with that, so that's the end. So here is an idea that I'm stealing from another reviewer on a much better way to bait out the army.
Okay.
And it's not perfect, but you need to make the bait a dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, it's difficult to make a dragon bait, right? So,
Right.
just like he was very vague, like, hey, make the dragon the bait. How? He didn't know. But we see trebuchets firing at the ships and whatnot, right? Maybe the pirates have other things, such as ballistas. You need to risk it, especially, and I think Damon might do this with how he's characterized in the show. Have the dragon injured. Maybe, or like not super bad, but like enough to where it's believable, and have it like kind of fall and crash there. Have it like limp, be weakened almost. And that be the motivation for the crab feeder to send his army out to try and kill a dragon. Because killing a dragon would be monumental in the war effort and can justify sending out the army.
Yeah, but risking a dragon is an insane proposition.
But I think with how it's played out, at least with how the show is kind of categorizing everything in characters, Damon might take that risk.
He might, but I don't know.
And
I
it-
would
and it
I would
would-
say that would be similarly stupid, though.
Not as stupid, though.
It wouldn't
I'd
be as
say.
stupid on the crab feeder's part, but it would be way stupider on Damon's part.
Well, I would say it's not quite, especially with Laenor being in this fight when he wasn't in the books. Having another Dragon Wire being a much quick addition to help. Because that's the thing. Here's what I'm thinking. The dragon falls. It's injured. So Damon's there. The crab feeder sends out his army to try and kill. The army kind of runs in, starts swarming. We get a few shots of Damon like cutting him down while his dragon's protecting him. We see the dragon like kind of biting and chomping and spitting flames. But we also see the army get close, being able to kind of stab and hack at the wings and feet. At that moment, Laenor Valerion swoops in and torches a bunch of them. Like, a majority of them. From there, they immediately retreat back into the caves. But this is a big enough blow to their numbers where now the Valerians are able to attack into the caves and finish the rest of them off.
I don't know.
Look, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's monumentally better than what we got.
It might be better than what we got.
It might be. Fuck you.
I mean, the whole premise is just so stupid that it's hard to get anything out of it. Because there's just so many ways to deal with them other than baiting them out of the caves.
Yeah, there is. Like you said, you could smoke them out. Especially with a fucking dragon.
Yeah. Smoke them out, fucking siege them, like you said.
Starve them a bit better.
Yeah, there's so many ways to deal with this situation other than having your dragon rider or his dragon do a suicide run.
So let's change this up a little bit. Let's say that they're not being portrayed as getting their asses kicked. Well, no, fuck, because smoking them out would be a pretty instant effect, huh?
Yeah, smoking them out would work pretty quick. I mean, and again, we're assuming it's a pretty extensive cave system, so maybe the smoke just doesn't build up deep enough down to smoke them out.
Yeah, like I said, maybe there's some secret entrances where the smoke could, in theory, just kind of leave. Or maybe there's openings at the top because the smoke would rise and it would eventually filter out through there. If all the soldiers inside, because it's not the fire. Like if they just lay down on the ground, in theory they should be okay.
I mean, I don't know. It depend again. It depends on what kind of cave system it is.
So I think giving, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not like discrediting your criticisms. I think those are all legitimate, but I am choosing to interpret this in the best possible light.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking that while there are other options that probably could work, once Viserys is sending those resources, Daemon is on a sudden timer to knock everything out a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you could run that perspective where they're sieging them, they're slowly starving them, killing them when they have the chance. But then when Daemon receives Viserys' letter, he's like, "We got to end this now."
Mm-hmm.
And so then he risks his dragon. But I don't like it's a dragon. You're risking one of the 10 dragons.
But I don't know. I also think that Daemon would be confident enough to do it. Like, he wouldn't see it as much of a risk. Like, he's like, nah, it won't. This will work. Foolproof.
Maybe so. So in the showrunner commentary, they basically said Daemon was prepared to die during his suicide run. They're like, oh yeah, Daemon was willing to die for this. Which I also was like, really? Daemon was willing to die for this?
I mean, I feel
that kind of ends all of his ambitions right there if he dies.
I mean, you gotta risk it for the biscuit. I feel like anyone who agrees to this has to be somewhat willing. Or at least prepared to, you know? Like, I mean, maybe we're, like, misinterpreting. When they say willing, I don't think his goal is to die.
Right. But still, I mean, the way the suicide run is presented in the show, Daemon is dead. He died 17 fucking thousand times during that suicide run.
It was incredibly stupid on both accounts.
So it's like, it's not even like Daemon was willing to die. Like, he was going to die.
But with...
like, there was no way you could do that and not think, oh, I'm going to die.
I don't know. I honestly believe that with the writers, they thought that there was reason for him to think that, nah, this could work when it shouldn't have. It's stupid that it did.
Yeah, so that concludes the worst episode of the show so far.
I wouldn't say it's the worst. I think that battle scene is the worst scene of the episode, but I hesitate to call the entire episode the worst.
I mean, it doesn't have much competition.
That is true. But I think, like, Viserys scenes knocking it out of the park, scene after scene. I know, like, you were more annoyed with Rhaenyra than I was, but I don't think it was that egregious. I think it's still the best episode we got.
You're saying this is the best episode?
I think so.
That is insanity. Viserys has been doing good stuff the whole time. Like, just because he's better in this episode than he's been in the past episodes doesn't mean he wasn't good in the past episodes.
I know, but he was at his best in this episode.
Yeah, and the princess and Daemon and the battle and the boar and Cole and the heart. There's just so much stupid stuff that happens in this episode.
I mean, I'll give you the boar and the battle. Those are things we can agree of are entirely dumb. I think Rhaenyra is a bit more subjective. Like, we both agree that she's annoying and a bitch. You just think of the annoying bitch part as poor writing, whereas I'm a bit more accepting of it, especially with the awkward situation of them having to do these time skips in general. So you kind of want to see this development, but because of the time skips, it feels like they're not developing enough. So it's a very awkward situation to be in. So
I mean, I'm not saying time skips don't make it hard, but I'm not going to forgive you for poorly writing characters just because you've decided to do a hard series.
Well, I guess I'm just a bit more forgiving in this. Like, I'd be willing to probably be told that the first episode was probably the best episode so far, because as, like, if we're kind of comparing, you know, the stupid fight scene to the stupid tourney scene, the tourney was not nearly as stupid.
Yeah.
So maybe, but I don't know. I just really loved all of Viserys' lines and moments.
I did too. Viserys was fantastic in this episode. But I would probably say the first episode is the best so far.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is the worst for me.
Okay. Well, on this matter we must agree to disagree. But, hey, we got through the entire episode, so is there any last-minute stuff that you might want to go over before we call it here?
There was one point that I accidentally glossed over in my notes. Whenever we're at the scene where Viserys is getting drunk and all the people keep coming up to talk about who the next heir should be, they're just like doing all this politicking and scheming in front of everybody. That seemed a little odd to me.
What scene are you talking about? Are you talking about when they're, like, the women are gossiping?
No, I'm talking about when Viserys is getting drunk.
Oh, so, to be
Where
fair...
Lannister gives him the spear and then puts his foot in his mouth, and then Otto comes and tries to talk him into marrying the princess to Aegon, and then Lionel comes and tries to convince him to marry her to Coral's son. Like, they're just doing that all in front of everybody. And I guess we're just supposed to assume that nobody's
paying attention.
Eavesdropping?
I mean, to be fair, it's the information they're going over isn't exactly like one would deem classified, you know?
But I mean, it does kind of hint at the unsurety the king has in the succession, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I'd at least say in defense of Otto, he
is like sit next to the king and kind
whispering.
of whisper.
And I don't see any reason why Jason Lannister would be against people knowing about him trying to wed Rhaenyra, because everyone wants to wed Rhaenyra at this point.
Yeah, so I guess if anything, I'm criticizing Lionel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was a little odd.
Maybe.
But I think that's the only point I missed.
Alrighty. Well, as before, thank you very much, DJ Fella, for joining me in this little discussion on the third episode. I look forward to seeing you on the fourth. And with that, everyone else, take care, be safe, and I'll see you all soon.